Yeah, as far as the pending of the links, I'm so excited about that feature. So in carousel is a great idea actually. um, yeah, that I didn't think about that, but because I got so excited once they had that, and they added that like I think a week or so ago, right? And just being able to publicize my website is great, So I um I definitely really, really like that feature. And also, like, even like that's, I think last time Katie did a great thing as she was speaking and people were speaking, she was putting their links up there as well. It was giving examples of it. So, um, in terms of like, doing a carousel of it, yeah, that's definitely different. I'd like to see that. um, I think Clubhouse has been working with the content creators, just to please everyone, to say, okay, here's, you know, um, new features that, so that to enhance the app. So I really like that, because sometimes you go on an app and it stays the same for a long time, and then they do one update, like, maybe once a year, and it's version this. But since I've been on Clubhouse, they pretty much have an update at least once a month, sometimes twice a month, really significant update to the app. So I really personally like that. And in terms of like how it is, you as a creator can do better, and and present yourself better, as well. So I have been able to grow my followings here. So I definitely see a lot of the benefits to some of the features that that they did put out. I think before it was like a going to Instagram. So now with just the pin link, you could directly send them to your website. I really, really like that. So wholeness.
Hey, so yeah, thanks for being here once again. This is a weekly meeting, and also we invite you to join us to chat with us about your top favorite features because we all don't know everything.
I wondered how everybody feels about the clips feature. I know that's been around now for a little bit, but there was some debate when it first became available, because it clips the last like 30 seconds, and it doesn't always credit the right person who was talking. And I wondered, would you be did you know did they fix that? Because that was a glitch that was happening, and I don't know if that's
Yeah, I don't know if they fixed it. However, I was not a fan of the clips, in terms of, I mean, it's still around, because when you first jump into the room, it's just like, pops really big on the screen. And then so you're trying to figure out, okay, like first thing is like how it is that it works and stuff like that. And I think it still does. So even coming into the room, like, it pops up. And then of course, just it's so, to me it's a bit um random. So it's for you to figure out what the last 30-second is and things like that. um so I think if it said more like the last speaker versus the last 30 seconds. Do you see what I'm saying? Um, would That would work out better than, so and I think with the option of the replays, you sort of get a better, because it's like the whole thing. You can edit where it is that you want, you know what is it, where it is that you want, from what time to what time you want cut out. So that, so in terms of it just randomly cutting, well, I mean, it's not random, but it's last 30 seconds. It still could be in the middle of a conversation, can be a bit choppy. This is what I had found. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to update my app to get the replay feature, since I'm an Android user, but I I'm a little conflicted too. I love the fact that Clubhouse is like a podcast with interaction. So it's actually more like almost like a radio show. where people are talking, but you get to interact with your listeners. Because I love that give and take, that exchange of creative energy that happens. And I have been thinking, oh, it'd be so great, to be able to record it and play it somewhere else for people who aren't on the Clubhouse app. But then I'm a little conflicted because my rooms, my grief rooms, tend to be very sacred and safe spaces where we talk about things that people might not feel comfortable talking about anywhere else. And I think part of that is the fact that Clubhouse is just a live app, and prior nobody was recording. It was just, you could come in, you could talk about whatever was on your heart, and that was that. Like, it's like Vegas. What's said in Vegas stays in Vegas. So I'm finding myself a little conflicted, although I have been looking into, maybe starting a podcast, so because of that feature. So now that we have the replay feature, I'm re-looking at that again. So I don't know how anybody else feels about that.
Yeah, I hope so. Thanks for chatting through this whole, just your thoughts behind the replay. I've been wondering that about that and curious about that myself. And I know you can go in and still like disable the replay. Now that I wonder, once I disable it, can I like put it back on, just toggle it on and off when we're in the room, and just how that would work? Because to me, I'm just, the example I'm seeing is if we were doing a presentation, which is kind of what we're doing now because no one else is joining us, and then we stop at one point where we say we've exhausted what we us three want to talk about, who had committed to be here, and now people who just kind of pop in, they can be more free at what they want to say, and we turn off the replay so that we can just have like a informal conversation. If yeah, so in that case, and I totally understand what you mean as far as your topic is very sensitive. And also I feel like sometimes in what would you be spaces, all that you do, where you talk, where people are allowed to talk about their feelings and the things that are a lot more personal. So, and with the replay on, people would be like, oh, I don't really want to share because it's going to be on record, right? And it's like having a phone conversation, with an intimate conversation with someone, and then it's being recorded to be shared with the world. So yeah, that's just my observation and point of view, and just thinking out loud. So thanks for like letting me talk it out.
Yeah, I like the replay because of the idea that I can, use it for like, podcast, because that was one of the things I wanted to do podcasting. But I definitely do see the point in terms of the recording of, like, say, are you free to talk? My thing is, like, for me, seriously, from the beginning, I always thought everything was being recorded, no matter what was said. To tell you the truth, I when I came to Clubhouse, I just instinctively knew that, hey, everything is because there was one part, but they did say, like, let's say if someone, this is where you could get the hint that everything was being recorded. So they said, like, if you if someone reports the room, they then, you can, they'll do is, like, they'll play the recording, right? And to confirm what happened in the room, right? So even though, like, you didn't have access to it, didn't mean that the app owners, or, like, had don't have access to the recording. So I think now we literally have access to the recording of our own room. So that to me is the difference. So I don't necessarily go into any places anymore with the expectation of privacy. I just understand that everything is being recorded. I mean, whether like I guess from just years of just dealing with Facebook and then all the other places, and then only to turn around to realize that once they go back, they have these recordings, where the when you look at the fine prints of things, there is like it's said, right? So, but most people don't bother to read the fine prints, so I really don't from the beginning have any expectation, even if it's a closed rooms or anything. So I always say like conduct yourself accordingly then, so in that respect. So now that they've made this feature available, like everybody else, I was, thinking of doing a podcast, and then now I'm like able to say, okay, here I can reuse this, because I do spend a lot of time on the app, so I can, basically use it for IG and so on and so forth. So in that respect, I like this. For example, even in a Zoom, there's been issues, so even though it's like a private, thing, there's been issues like that, and Zoom was sued and all that kind of stuff. So expectation of privacy, not so much. I sort of understand that to a big extent, everything is recorded. So yeah, that's literally how I feel about it.
This is Michelle. I did not know that, GB, about that they had a recording of the room, even if it wasn't available at the time. That's okay. That's interesting. I was going to ask, and you sort of answered it, but maybe we could dig a little deeper, and wanted to welcome Atandra and Rosie to the stage. Um, the replays, you can, is it a link that you get? Because you said that you could share it to your
Yes, you get a link to download it. You do. And I tried to download. Let me see if it was taking some time to download. So I had left it, right? Um, so yes, you can basically download it into your phone. And I have to work it out more, but it is like available um, to be accessed.
Yeah, so Michelle, if you go into your profile right now, you have a few that have had the replays on, and I think in each of the box, there's on the top right, there's the three dots for each of them. So you can click on that, and it offers a few different options for you. And I think that one of them is where you can uh, just download the audio, and I was able to get it and send it to my computer, um, and save it that way for the one that I had prior to this room. But yeah, we want to hear from you, Tondra, Rosie, and Lakeisha. We can go in order. If you can just tell us, like quickly, what is your top favorite feature? Just like 30 seconds, so that we can just hear from each of you first, and then we can go in further. So, Atonja, if you can go ahead.
Hey there. Thank you all so much for welcoming me to the stage. To answer that first question, yes, the replay is my absolute favorite feature, and there's several reasons for that, but that definitely is my favorite feature right.
Hello, currently it's the links, but it will be the replay once I figure it out. And I have a question potentially for Michelle later.
Lakeisha, do you have?
I do. Mine is the wave because you can take people in and out of the room of big rooms if you're following each other, you can wave at each other and you guys go in a separate locked room and then have that discussion and then come right back to that room you were in. Um, if you go back to the hallway. So that's my love for.
Cool. So it looks like we're still on the replay, that topic itself, and then the wave. And so yeah, where did we leave off with the replay? Um, or maybe Rosie, if you want to bring your question.
Sure. So I like Michelle. Well, I imagine Michelle. We deal with like different and difficult kind of emotions sometimes. So like whether it's disability or grief or whatnot. So what are your thoughts on replays and when to use them and how to, reuse your content without making people feel kind of vulnerable? If you, this is very new, so I don't know if you're at that point yet, but
Yes, this is Michelle. I did mention that. I think you weren't in the room yet, but it is one of my um I don't know how to feel about it because my rooms are, I consider them sacred spaces and safe spaces where people can talk about things, um especially around like grief and loss, and um they can do so knowing that it's a no judgment. And like for instance, next Wednesday I'm hosting a room and with the Body Love Alchemist, and we're going to be talking about grief and miscarriage, which is a very sensitive topic. And on the one hand, excuse me, on the one hand, I could see, yes, it would be a great replay for people who are not on Clubhouse who might benefit from that. If it was, I think Katie touched on this. If it was just her and I just talking like a traditional podcast, probably I wouldn't have as much trepidation about it, because we would have already agreed, yes, we're talking about this and we're going to put it out there and we're going to record it. Um, Probably you get around this because I know that and this was going to be actually a question for Katie or Widgeby or Tandra, because you mentioned you liked the replay feature. When you get on a Zoom call and they have decided to record it, you get a pop-up that says, this room or this meeting is being recorded. If you do not agree, exit now. And I'm wondering if something like that happens here on Clubhouse. If somebody has decided to record the room for a replay, does the moderator mention it at the beginning? Do they mention it when they're resetting the room? Or does a pop-up come up when you enter the room and come up on stage?
So I've played a lot. I actually have just come back to Clubhouse recently, and I have really, really got into the replay feature. And so there's a couple of things to mention here. Number one, when the moderator turns on replays, when you see the room in the hallway, there is a sign next to the title that says replays are on. And so this is where we start having the conversation about personal responsibility, because if the replays are on, then it's obvious that this is going to be recorded. And so I think what has to happen, especially for coaches and people who work with people with sensitive topics, there has to be a choice. So if you're opening up a space where people are going to be asking questions and they're going to be, talking about very, very sensitive things, then of course that room shouldn't have replays on. But if you're hosting some kind of like an informational or class, or for example, Michelle, if you are talking about, I'm not in your field, but let's say you were going to discuss the 5 stages of grief, right? That's a beautiful piece of content that you could record, and then of course repurpose that across other places, so that other people could have access to it. And so then it becomes the responsibility of the moderator to say, hey, just so that you all know, this room does have the replays on, and so understand that if you ask a question or if you bring up a sensitive topic, this content is going to be repurposed. If you're not comfortable with that, then I encourage you to join me on my session on Thursday, which is a private session where the replay is not on, and we can really dig deep into, whatever it is that's going on. So that's kind of how, I would moderate with that kind of a situation. With regard to how to download it, the way that it works is that when you get the link, it's an Amazon cloud link. And so even though it's just the audio, it's still in sort of like a video format. And so the easiest thing to do is to actually take the link and download it on your desktop or on your laptop, as opposed to attempting to download it on the phone, because sometimes the Amazon cloud just is just not going to do it. It may take 2 or 3 days, and then sometimes it's just not going to do it at all. So if you take the link and you put that into a browser on your laptop or your desktop, then you'll be able to download it directly to your computer. The link is available for an hour. So if you don't download it within that hour, you would have to go back and get a new link to download that. And so what I've been doing is I will take the Amazon video, and it's basically, you hear the audio and it's on a black screen, right? So there's nothing there. So I take the video and I will put it in my editor, and I'll add a photo to it. So now the video is playing on a background, and so I upload that to YouTube and I upload that to IGTV. Then I take that video and I remove the video part from it, so I convert it from MP4 to MP3, and take that audio and upload it to the podcast. And so that's kind of how you can put it on these, just wherever it is that you have your content, to be able to share that. But again, with regard to privacy, it's really up to the moderator to say, hey, this is going to be recorded. The replays are on, as you can see. Just be cognizant of that as you're asking your questions. So, yeah, I hope that was.
So you can't stop the replay in the room at any time. Like, for instance, let's say that Katie and I were talking about something sensitive and we recorded that, and then we invited people up to the stage for questions, and we said, okay, now we're going to stop the replay so that you can just ask your question. That's not?
No, it's an all or nothing. So either the replay is on or the replay is off. And so if you cut it off during the talk, you're not going to have a replay recorded.
Gotcha.
But it
So
could.
the when you're setting the meeting, when you're doing your meeting, that's the button toggle on or off for replays. And so you also have to be careful, because once you toggle it on, any other meeting that you set after that will be on. So if you're going back and forth between it on and off, you want to make sure, like, if you don't want a meeting to be recorded, as you are setting that meeting up, you are turning it on or off.
Lakeisha, you have.
Yeah, I do. So, okay, so I like this room. Hi, Rosie. So, when you're in the hallway, I want to say your name, but I don't want to say it wrong. I'm gonna call you A. I don't want to pronounce your name wrong. Um, how do you say your name?
Atandra.
Atandra. Ooh, that's beautiful. Okay, so I can say that now that I know how to say it. Atandra. So when you said in the hallway, you could see when people are having the replays on. Is that for iPhones? Because I sure in the heck did not see that on my Android.
That might be it. That's the thing. I'm not really familiar with what's available on iPhone and what's available on Android. And I may even have gotten that wrong. Maybe you don't get to see it until you get into the room. What I do know is that, if you're in the room, you're going to see where it says replays on. Um, Let me look. You know what? Let me go into my hallway right now and see.
Okay, because the reason I was asking, I updated my iPhone. It's my boyfriend's iPhone that I took, and I was like, okay, go get yourself a new phone. So, I'm very interested on the thought of if they have the red dot for the recording purposes, it kind of indicates that there's going to be a recording in there. But if you dismiss, or how do you say it, disable the replays, it won't be able to capture that, what you said previously. That is a very good point. Yeah, I think they should add that. And then the other point was, oh my gosh, what the heck? Oh, toggling the replay on and off. Now I know that you can toggle it on and off before you start a room, but I don't think you can toggle it on and off once you're in the room.
You can toggle it off once you're in the room. Um, But from what I've seen is if you toggle it off while you're in the room, then I think, I'm not sure how they have the system working, but I think it basically tells the system, oh, wait a minute, I thought I wanted a replay, but actually I don't. And so you don't you don't get a recording of anything that was done before you.
So,
So
sorry, I don't have that option. So just to say, is it like the only the person who made the room can can turn on the replay during the room? Because I didn't see that, so I just want to make sure, like,
Yes, I think that feature belongs to the person that's in that is actually that has actually started the room. I have just in the last couple of days, I've just done a couple of rooms at random times, and I've been able to see where I can click and I can see, okay, turn the replay off, and I can click that and turn the replay off if I wanted to. But again, if that does happen, you don't get any of that. Any of the other part of the conversation. So again, um, I think that instead of trying to find, I think the best workaround, quote unquote, would be just to say, if I'm opening up the room, just to be responsible enough and say, listen, I am recording this lesson. And this lesson is going to be repurposed. As you all can see, the replays are on. So if you ask a question or if you bring up a sensitive topic, just understand that this is going to be shared. And then then the onus becomes on the person who's in the audience to decide whether or not they want to share that. And then you can do two different kinds of rooms, right? You can do one room that's specifically for for content that you're going to repurpose, and then you can do other rooms for conversations around those sensitive topics that you don't want to be shared. I mean, Clubhouse keeps recordings of everything that we do anyway. They've done it since the very beginning. They said it in one of their town hall meetings, but at least you won't be the one that has access to record to that part to share their personal business with.
so Rosie, did that answer your
It did. I think what I was leaning to, or and I think Michelle, you may have said it, or I don't know, but if we have the recordings on, keep them on, and tell people, first part is more like the theory, the tips, the discussion, and then second part, yes, it's still recording, but if I purpose that, I will not use that and actually say that, like, all right, this part will not be used anymore. Now, I mean, people could say, "Oh, she might not do that, and therefore might not be as comfortable." But I mean, if I clearly say I will not repurpose this part, and then I repurpose it, that doesn't look very good on me. So I don't know how well that would work, but it's another idea I'm thinking about. But yes, absolutely, it did answer my question. I did not know nearly as much about it, so thank you.
so Atandra, can you edit the recording once you've downloaded it? Like, can you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Once you've downloaded it to your computer, you can do, whatever your normal editing thing is with the other content you do. Yeah, you can totally do that. Like Rosie said, you know, I know for me personally, I would have to have a certain level of trust for someone to say, "Hey, the replays are on." For those of you who are sharing sensitive topics, if your topic is sensitive, I won't I won't add that to the repurposing of the content. I know for me, if I don't know that person very well, I'm not going to be comfortable. I'm not going to I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to trust them to not repurpose it, or maybe not accidentally repurpose it. So maybe that just has to do with the trust factor that you have with your audience. But yeah, once you download it, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do with it.
Another thing
Yeah,
I
I think Rosie, to keep it clean, I like Atandra's advice that you would have a room that is specifically like a lecture style or class or something like that, where you're just talking about the topic and you maybe have a guest speaker or whatever, and that just the two of you or the three, like let's just say it was just Katie, myself, and Widgeby, and we were just talking about this and we were recording it, and then we would say, okay, so join us, you know, tonight or 2 days from now, where we're going to have a Q&A on this topic or whatever. And that one is not going to be recorded. I think, because I agree with Atandra, accidents happen. And it doesn't matter how much you trust somebody, accidents happen. And so and the legal part of it too, just gets a little sticky. So I think I like it where if you are talking about a sensitive subject, like I do quite a bit, then that's what I would do. And I think I'm going to, Tandra, I think that's a great idea. I think I'm going to take that advice, that if I am going to repurpose something, I'm going to tell people. I mean, and if they're okay, then they're okay with it. They can come up and they can talk. That's fine. Always, I think it's giving the people a choice, whether they want to do it or not. But then you can say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do a room and it's not going to be recorded. So
If I can
Yeah,
say,
this is real. Yeah, go ahead. This is so.
I think so. The thing is with me is I have fairly small rooms, and I do have a co-host. So I think what I might do is just say, okay, we're gonna close this room out, and then I'll be right back here in like a few minutes for anybody else who wants to share who didn't want to be recorded or something like that. Because to reset up another time, I don't know. That just seems like a lot of work, a lot of effort with the co-mods versus 7 to 7:45 is recorded, 7:45 to 8:30 new room, not recorded. I don't know. That's just kind of what I'm thinking.
oh, that's a good way around it. Like, just say, especially depending on what the topic is and how much you're talking about it with your co-host or guest speaker, and then you say we're going to take a break, and when we come back, the replay feature will be off, so that you can come up and give your or ask your questions or give your shares. That's a pretty good idea. I wonder what the not the demographic, but what Clubhouse users, like, if they're out of a room, if a room ends even for just a break, are they more likely to come back for Q&A, or are they like, no, I'm going to go on to the next room, or I'm going to go off and do something else? I wonder what the data is on that.
So I've done that before. It wasn't because of a replay, but I've done where it was like, hey, I'm gonna talk about sales, and then I'm gonna end this, in this, and then give me 5 minutes, and then the next room I'm gonna do actual one-to-one sales coaching. Um, and what I found is that if the people who want that, the people who want the content, or who wanted that opportunity, they actually came back. So, and it was interesting because if I was late, like if I said I'll be back in 5 minutes and maybe I got caught up with something and it was like 7 minutes later, I would have people DMing me on Instagram like, hey, are we still doing the such and such and such? So again, I think a lot of this has to do with the relationship that you have with your audience. Um, and yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. But in my previous experience, they do tend to come.
Oh, this is really great. What I'm hearing is that we're trying to work out if there are portions of the room where you do or do not want to be recorded. How can we work around it? It sounds like the person who opened the room, who's the lead, can disable the replay midway, but then it's all or nothing. And that if you do disable it, you don't get a recording at all. And then we're also trying to figure out what do you do, like, as far as hey Hiromi. Yeah, we're